Hi everyone, Matt here. I got a question for you. How much do you think a patient should be held accountable for their rehab outcomes? Let's talk about it. All right, first and foremost, let me introduce myself. My name is Matt. I am Matt the PT, coming at you with another video, another topic of something in the physical therapy world. And this one, I feel, is kind of controversial. A lot of details, a lot of nuances and things like that. So I'm going to try to be as detailed in all that as possible. And of course, I want to hear your thoughts, beliefs, and opinions down in the comments. But how much should we hold patients accountable? And is it saying that a patient is being held accountable, or is it patient blaming? Where do we draw the line on that? And I'm going to set a scenario for you. Outpatient orthopedic setting. Patient is sent to you who had a knee replacement 2 weeks ago. They had the, just common knee replacement. They come in and you go through your evaluation and find out they have a major loss of flexion. They have just a very minor loss of extension. They're unsteady in their walking. They're walking with a cane. And they're pretty weak, and they're having difficulty functioning around the house. Just all the basic stuff. Just take your typical knee replacement that you see. That is this person. So you go through your evaluation. You talk to them about what rehab is going to consist of. You give them exercises to do for home. You answer any questions. You just lay everything out. You do all those things that you should be doing with them. Now we'll go to the next visit. So the next visit, the person comes in. So it's been 2 days. And they're sore and they're hurting, and it was difficult to walk. I said, yes, of course. It's a knee replacement. You got cut on. You had stuff removed, stuff put in. Yeah, you're going to feel like that. Are you doing your stuff at home? No, I didn't really have a chance to get around to it. Okay, you review the home exercises and why they're important, why they're there, and you conversate with this person all through their visit. And I'm going to tell you, this goes on for 2 more weeks. So 2 weeks of this person coming in, they're not doing their stuff at home. They're not really pushing themselves in therapy. Then after that 2 weeks, they disappear. They're gone. We don't know where they are. No call, no show. You can't get a hold of them. The surgeon can't get a hold of them. Nobody. No, they're just gone. You think, oh my gosh, did something bad happen? Are they upset with us or whatnot? We don't know. Then flash forward another 2 weeks. Person just shows up again. They never tell you why they were gone. But did they go on vacation? No, they didn't go on vacation. Did they forget they had appointments? No, they didn't forget. They just didn't show, and they don't ever tell you why they didn't. And again, this person, they have that major loss of flexion of their knee. They're still weak. They're very unsteady when they walk. And then during their therapy session, they ask you, why am I not getting better? I know other people at this point, like their knee is bending so well, and mine's not. Why is it mine doing that? Where do you honestly answer that person? Where do you honestly answer them? And do you sugarcoat it? Do you kind of put it on the thing? Well, everyone's a little different with what they do. Some people get better really fast. Some people just takes a lot longer. Or are you on the other side where you're saying, you're not doing it. You're not doing your stuff at home. You're not showing up to therapy. You're not pushing yourself. This is totally on you. Where do you feel like you are on that continuum? So I'm going to tell you, this was a patient I saw years and years ago. This person had a knee replacement. They had that major loss of flexion. They weren't doing their stuff at home. They missed a huge chunk of therapy. They wouldn't push themselves. And when they finished up their therapy, whatever they got, they kind of just got whatever they got because they were a Medicare patient. So eventually we couldn't justify them coming in because they weren't making any progress. And we just had to say, like, we can't because we don't want to get a Medicare audit. And I don't remember all the details to it. That was somebody. And really, this has stuck with me for a long time to say, where on that continuum is it patient blaming? If I talk about this, are you saying that I am blaming the patient for not getting better? Or was that patient not holding themselves accountable for it? Now, before you get into any of those things that you're most likely going to say, you're not correct. I'm just going to tell you right there. You're not correct. This person had no cognitive issues. This person had a very healthy social life, and they had family that was helping them. This person was working a job. Now, I will say this person had a lot on their plate because they were working and trying to work on a doctorate at the same time. I will admit this person had a lot on their plate. We talked every visit about the importance of doing their stuff at home. Do we need to make modifications to the things that you do at home? Do we just need to focus on one or two things? Do we need to get you, different times so that you can get here, so that you can do the stuff? Do we just need to really make sure that we block off 2 hours for you? Because this was a Medicare. We only saw them one-on-one. We did any of that. We talked to family members. We did all of those things that people that you would say, did you do this? Yes. The answer is yes. We did all of those things with this patient, and they did not have a good outcome with their knee. And I'm going to tell you what, I have seen patients in a very similar thing throughout my career, and I'm pretty sure you have too. If you want to share that down in the comments, please, you can go ahead and do that. But this really brings up the thing, because I've heard this from not only in rehab, but I've heard it in with physicians and trainers and all sorts of people. And I really wanted to have that discussion and talk about this a little bit more. And I want to talk about this because I feel like whenever we bring this thing up, we get said, oh, you're patient blaming. You're blaming the patient. You didn't do all of these things to ensure that person got better. And it really sparks the thing of saying, well, how much should be on the patient, should be on that person? That are they doing everything that they can in the rehab? Now I'm going to say, I understand there are things that are barriers. Because somebody doing therapy, you time coming in to do therapy takes a chunk of your time that you have to take time away from work. That's a big one. Work is a big one. If I don't go to work, I don't make money. If I don't make money, I can't pay my bills. So work can have a priority. It could be taking care of family members or doing those other things. I totally get that. It could be an understanding thing, a cognition thing. Somebody may not fully understand why they need to do these things. They just say, oh, make me do all these dumb exercises. I get that. Maybe somebody just can't, again, a cognitive issue where they don't understand that, where they, again, can be, something like dementia or Alzheimer's, something like that. They don't understand why they got to do these things. Why is this person telling me to do this? Yes, there are those things there that can really limit people in doing rehab. And I admit, and I will say, those are barriers that keep people from getting better. Because again, if somebody's like, look, I work 2 jobs and it's super hard for me to get in. And they do what they can to come in like once a week, or maybe you have phone calls or text messages or emails with them. It can be hard for them to do the stuff at home, to do exercises at home. Maybe they can't do, I understand it. And that's when we do those things. And I trust that we are all good enough therapists to do those things, to say, let's have a conversation. What are those barriers in your way? What are those barriers? And I will modify around you to help you as best I can to do your stuff, or to get here, to do whatever, to get those goals. I have faith in so many therapists that we do those things. But again, where is the point that it falls over to the patient to say, we did these things, you have to pick it up and you have to carry it from here. Now I'm going to say, this is a hard conversation to have. In the South, we call it a come to Jesus meeting. If you're going to have a come to Jesus meeting with your mama, it ain't probably going to be pretty. She's going to let loose on you. But it's a hard conversation to have with somebody, to tell them, look, you're not doing what you need to do. I care for you so much, but you're not doing it. And you can see it hurts this person. And I will say, because I would say as humans, we don't want to take blame for ourselves. We don't want to blame ourselves as the problem. But I'll say, if you ever look at any kind of motivational speaker or anyone like that, what's one of the first things they tell you? They're like, I saw that I was the problem. I was standing in my own way. And when I got out of my own way, these things changed. But people don't really want to do that. And so I understand that conversation is something hard to have, because then that person has to say, well, I'm the problem. And we don't want to blame ourselves, because that's just a hard thing to face. If you've ever wondered about how you can get patients to have more accountability, hit that thumbs up button. Back to the video. Likewise, that we don't want to have this conversation with patients as well, to tell them like, look, you need to do these things, because this is the goofiest thing that happen is if we upset that patient or that person, what can happen? One, they could leave. They're just like, well, I'm just going to leave and I'm just not going to come back. So then you've lost that patient. But you can get, in trouble, or you get a talking to, or whatever you want to call it, from like your manager, or maybe the referring physician, or like a case manager. How many times has that happened? How many times has a patient called the manager or said something to the physician or case manager, and then they come back to you? They make a phone call. We got to have a meeting. We got to talk about this. What'd you do wrong? What'd you do this? And they immediately just jump on your case and say, you did everything wrong. And I'm going to say, when that stuff starts happening, and I feel like that's gone on for too long, when it's just like immediately blaming the therapist, is that you make therapists very passive. And it's like, I'm just going to just play it cool and just be real. And I'm not going to have those hard conversations. I'm just not going to do that, because they're just going to upset people and going to get mad on it. But I will tell you, though, it's a funny situation that if the situation was different, and saying that patient or person or whomever said those things to you about your manager or the doctor or the case manager, and they said something negative about them, and then you went back to your manager or the physician or the case manager and you said, hey, well, so-and-so said this about you. They would go, no, that's not true. That's just not true. No. They would, I'm going to tell you, and that's happened every single time. And looking at that situation, why is that? Why do you automatically believe them in this situation with someone else, but you never looked at the other way to say, what is it? What is it that actually went on? What actually went on? Let me get both sides. Let me get the information. And I may realize, like, look, there was some over here and there was some over here, but hey, you weren't showing up to your appointments. Were you doing the things that you were supposed to be doing? I'll tell you an example. I had somebody do that one time. This person was consistently 10 minutes late. No matter how many times we warned them, they were a workers' compensation case. This person was, like I said, always 10 minutes late. We warned them. Hey, we put notes into their case manager. And one day, when they came in, they would just barely do their exercise. Never want to progress them, would be talking on the phone. We'd get so mad if we told them to get off the phone. One day, comes in there, said, I want to talk to the manager. Well, lo and behold, that was me. And they want to complain. And it's like, I've seen that you showed up late, which I asked them, do you show up late? They didn't want to answer it. They're just talking on and saying, hang on, have you been showing up late? You said that they said that. Have you been showing up late? Have you been showing up on time? Do you do your exercise in here? Are you, on your phone? And got so upset. They didn't want to say it was us. They wanted to say it was us as the problem. They didn't want to say, no, it's me. I wasn't doing those things. They called the case manager, tried to make a case. Luckily, the case manager was a very good one. Had a conversation. They said, hey, we understand. We get that. And they understood we were doing as much as we could. This patient wasn't taking the accountability to do the things that they actually needed to do. And again, a lot of other things go into the why behind it. And I am admitting there's a lot that goes into the why on it. But in that situation, they were putting the blame on us when they were the one who was creating all of it. And this is just not like in the rehab. Go talk to a trainer and they'll tell you that I feel like this is pretty rampant in the training world. A friend of mine's a trainer. And they talk about clients that said, this person is not losing weight. I don't know really how to just communicate really well to them because they're showing up late to their appointments. They're skipping them. They're not tracking their calories. I know that they're just starving themselves during the week and then they're binge eating on the weekends. They're not sleeping enough and they're not doing those things. And they're mad at me to say, well, why am I not losing weight? Why am I not doing this? And they said, well, if I tell them the truth to say, you're not doing the basics, they're going to get mad and they're going to leave. And I can't afford to lose this person as a client, but I want them to get better. How often does that go? I mean, there's even a video out there of a trainer working with somebody. And I think it is a satirical video, but it makes a point. Trainer is working with a lady and that's the video. He's working with a lady. He turns his back as she's doing lunges. She gets up and kind of runs up ahead and then does it. And it's supposed to be funny that, I did it, but you didn't do it. You cut yourself short. So you cut the exercise that you were supposed to do that's going to help you reach the goals that you are paying for. Whose fault is that? Is it the trainer to say like, well, you didn't program correctly, or no, the client skipped stuff. They were not handling what they needed to do to get better. As you say on this thing, yes, it's a satirical video that they did, but it makes that point. How much is on that client that you skipped something? You did not do what you needed to do to reach your goals. And I say all that to say how much of that burden, we'll call it a burden, falls onto the patient or the public for their health. Okay. Like how much of it is on them to do the things that they need to do. And again, a lot of variables and factors, the social determinants of health. I'm a big fan of those. I accept those into many, many things. And I completely understand those can have a huge, huge factor in somebody, in how they do. But take situations when it's like you, as a therapist with a patient, that how much can you do to say, I did the maximum I could, this person didn't get better. Is it your fault? Or to say, no, this person did not use it. They did not do their stuff. We made modifications. We made changes. We had explanation after explanation after explanation. We went through all those things that we are taught that we are supposed to do to have a good therapy session and a good therapeutic, rapport and all those. You did all those things. And people are so quick to say, oh, you needed to do this. We do them. When you do them and things just don't turn out. How much is it to say, well, it was on them? As much as I hate to say that was on them. And I will say, we're not totally blameless in things as well. I'm not saying that we're all the squeaky clean angels to say, nope, never us. We do everything perfect. And no, you cannot say that. It falls in there. But how much do you think we need to start saying, look, this is on you. You have to do this. If you don't, you're not going to get to the things that you want. I'll do whatever I can to help you do that, but you have to pick this up and you have to do this so much. And how much support do we need from those around us? If you're staff therapist, your management, to say, I support you in what you did. I understand that you did everything that you could. Or are they going to come down to be like, well, did you not do this? And I'm going to tell you, if you're a manager watching this and you do that stuff, you're hurting the therapists that work for you. You're making them more passive. Okay. You're not helping the profession. I'm telling you that right now. You're making them more passive and scared because they're scared to lose their job because of how you are, and you're not listening to them, and you're not listening to the whole story. And if you're a physician, same thing. You're making things worse by saying, I'm just automatically going to believe this. I'm going to come down and I'm just going to do this. No, case manager, it's all the same. You're making things worse. And if you get into those situations where somebody comes and says this, I feel like the best thing is to go, what are all the details? Can we get both sides to sit down? Let's look at everything. Okay. As my dad told me one time, when a situation happens, hold up 3 fingers, because that's this person's view of it. That's your view of it. And the truth lies somewhere in the middle. Okay. This is what we need to do. And if it does come down that the therapist is at fault, yes, it is at your fault. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. Do better next time. And if it does fall the patient to say, hey, yeah, you didn't get better because you didn't do anything at home. And now I'm not saying shame people. Do not shame people. I think that's one of the worst things to do. With the whole pandemic stuff and all that going on, people thought about, we need to tell people, not treat people if they don't do this or they don't do that. You can't do that. You start shaming people, they don't do those things. You can't shame people to do stuff. They end up resenting you. I'm not saying shame. Nowhere am I saying that we shame patients for not doing their stuff. You didn't do your stuff. It's all 100% on you. But to say how do we go about saying that? To say, like, look, you got to be active. You got to do this. There is no other way. And it's something I like to say. If the shortcut worked, it would be called the way. Okay? If the shortcut worked, it would be called the way. Who takes the long way on purpose? Well, probably the charlatans, and the grifters. They like the long way because they make more money. But honestly, okay? If you enjoyed the video, hit that thumbs up button. Consider subscribing to the channel. And of course, please share your thoughts, beliefs, and comments all down below. I want to hear from you. I want you to share. You can share a story of this that went on, positive or negative. You can share how you go about doing this. Let others know, hey, this is how I let people know to be more accountable, to say, hey, you need to bear you got to carry part of this as well. You got to do this. I'm going to walk with you, but you got to carry it on there. So with that being said, take care of yourself. Take care of your patients. I'll see you next time.